So we have already started coupled mode theory. Right. So I hope you understand what was the how we have started to frame the coupled mode theory. Assumed that there are multiple modes in the waveguide, and multiple modes can interact because of the perturbation, right? And the modes, individual modes, we can say that if it is defined by okay, is this not visible? How, why it is not visible that all those view? Nowadays, yeah. Yeah, I think we are back again. I think there is a lot of problem these days for connections. So am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have started coupled mode theory and assumed that any waveguide can have multiple modes if this is the mode number, and if I consider the electric field is a scalar one, meaning only I am considering the dominant electric field, dominant component of the electric field. If it is a TE mode, it can be say X direction or Y direction, whatever. That's why I don't use a vector sign. So in that case, I can use some kind of amplitude, and also I can have a profile, field profile is something like this, and it has a propagation constant beta with a frequency omega. So we write beta m jet, something like this. So so this is the waveguide mode. Typical waveguide mode we can represent in a waveguide, and you can have a multiple modes, right? If there is a perturbation, normally typically we explain that waveguide dielectric constant, if it is xy, then somehow perturbation, if it is there, the original thing is there, along with that some kind of perturbation we represent as delta epsilon xyz. So in such situation, the same mode I can represent to be perturbed as well, and we, since it is perturbed, that mode for mth mode, so I should not use the vector again. So em can be represented as amz. So as it propagate, this is a jet propagating waveguide, we can just show something like this. So this is your y, and this is your x, and this is your waveguide cross section, something like this. So this is the Z axis, Z propagating waveguide. Then along Z direction, you can have some kind of modulation or evolution, and that is represented by AM. Earlier this AM was constant, and because of the perturbation, we have this modulation. We can assume because of this modulation, this perturbation, this is our perturbation. Yeah. So the electric field can be written like this. Just note here that I have only introduced this additional part, but this part and beta m is typically, we write beta m should be omega by c n effective m, or equal to 2 pi by lambda n effective m, mth mode effective index. So that is also, that means the effective index of the mth mode also not changed, we are assuming, for the mode, and the profile also not changing much, but power somehow can be evolved because of this type of perturbation. That is the assumption. So that type of perturbation we can actually we can consider, right? And assuming that we have used our vector wave equation or Helmholtz equation, and then we arrived to a certain expression that is actually something like this. If you recall your last class, J m 2 beta m so that means this AM jet, the jet dependent variation is there, and mth mode profile as it is will be like this, right? And e to the power minus j beta m, I have just dropped omega t term from the both side. Then right hand side will be omega square mu, and then sum over delta epsilon, that is the perturbation part, xyz, right? And a here instead of summation m, initially we derived like a n, this side m, that side m, but we can deal right hand side and left hand side independently with different indices n, z, right? And then you have en x y, right? And multiplied by e to the power minus j beta n z. So I can write m means it has to be summing over all the modes, right hand side also summing over all modes. So individually you do with a different indices here, m and n we are considering. I think that does not change your theoretical aspects. Why we are doing so, that will be clearer a little while later. Any question on this? Hopefully it is okay, right? So this is the thing we have derived in the last class. When we incorporated dielectric constant instead of epsilon a xy for waveguide mode profile, dielectric profile, that is modified like this. And then we have assumed that because of this perturbation, the fields of individual modes is modified. That means some z direction evolution will be there. Okay, this is our, actually this is the equation, general equation we'll be using for different type of device performance, different type of perturbation, different type of functionalities we can design for any waveguide devices. So meaning that if we can control this delta epsilon, this perturbation, we can have control. This control can be active, this perturbation control can be passive as well. Okay, structurally you can give certain kind of perturbation. in the waveguide, or actively you can control that perturbation. Okay, so that you can get this type of final governing equation, and you can proceed with this equation to get what would be the final outcome for a certain given perturbation. All right. So what we'll do here, we'll do one thing starting from here. So you multiply uh, ek star xy to the, and its propagation e to the power j beta k z, both side. Okay, you understand? I am just considering kth mode, because m can run from 0 to certain value. That but mode number can start from fundamental mode number 1, mode number 2, mode number 3, and so on. N also can this is sum over this thing, it can run over all the modes, right? Now you selectively choose one particular mode, that is kth mode. That can be first order mode, that can be second order mode, that can be fundamental mode, some finite mode you just consider. That can be arbitrary kth mode, individual mode. And you take complex conjugate, because we are assuming that when I am defining this thing, there is no restriction that you have to consider this part as a real. It can be complex also, because it is a XY dependent profile, but XY dependent profile also you can consider certain kind of complexity also, phase along XY plane. So if that is the case, if I take the kth mode, that means I will be writing, instead of m, I will be writing k, and instead of beta m, I will be writing beta kz. And if I am taking complex conjugate, that means ek star, and instead of minus j beta mz omega t, that is I am omitting from both sides, I will be writing plus j beta kz. I just multiply this one both sides. So this has this multiplication will give us simplified form of this equation. Okay, multiply both sides and then integrate over xy plane. Okay, that is the whole idea. If you just multiply and integrate over xy plane, what I will get? Leave it j and then m 2 beta m dam z by dz, and then integration over xy. That means cross section of the waveguide. Here in this cross section you are just integrating. Okay, xy plane. So you have your I can write something like this: ek star xy and then em xy dx dy times multiplied by e to the power j beta k minus beta m z. So k is fixed here, but you are summing over m, all the modes. You have to check beta k minus beta 0, beta k minus beta 1, beta k minus beta. So whenever m runs from all the modes starting from 0, there it will be coming here. And along with that, I will see also this value also. What is the integration value there? So that is the left hand side I am getting. What is right hand side? Right hand side I can write omega square mu, and here index is n, and I can write ek star xy delta epsilon xyz, and then en xy, right, multiplied by an e to the power j beta k minus beta n z. So that is what I am getting. This is left hand side and that is right hand side. Simply what I'm doing, that whatever I derived in the last class, I'm just multiplying ek star this thing. So when I multiply that, I can see some clear way of simplifying left hand side. So if you
Sir,
check,
won't there be an integral on the right hand side?
yes, that's correct. Thanks. That will be integration also, and that will be dx dy. That's correct. That I missed. Okay. So that is the right hand side you are getting. Left hand side you are getting, and left hand side, if you just look carefully, this one, if you integrate, and whenever you are integrating, you have to think of summing over all the modes. All the modes, em, this em will be running from 0 to 1. Every value you have to put here, and you have to take the integration, and then you have to keep on adding in the series. But you know, this value will exist because all the modes are orthogonal, and this integration will exist only when this m equal to k. If m not equal to k, because of the orthogonality condition, this value, this overlap between the modes, overlap integral between the modes will be 0, right? So this will exist only, left hand side will exist only when k equal to m. Is that correct? Any objection? Left hand side expression, you look, then I have considered that you have the perturbation such that the field profile is not changed much. That is our assumption. If that is the case, from the orthogonality condition of unperturbed waveguide, I know that the overlap integral between two modes will exist only when they are identical. Because if they are k not equal to m, because k may be fundamental mode, m equal to first order mode, that will not exist. Orthogonality condition says that we have derived earlier. Is that okay? Hope it is okay, right? So left hand side, instead of that, what we will be writing? If these fields are normalized to 1 watt, we can write this is nothing but 2 omega mu pi beta, what you can write, beta k, maybe mode of beta k into 1 watt, right? That is also we have derived earlier, right? Only when k equal to m, then this value, this integration value will become like this. And you should keep in mind that these field profiles are actually, the modes are normalized to 1 watt. Every mode is normalized to 1 watt. So when every mode is normalized to 1 watt and k equal to m, then integration will become this one that we have proved in the previous class, last class. Orthogonality condition, if you check back in my last lectures. So that means left hand side, the summation will go. Only one term will be, summation means you have a series, you are adding all the components. Only one term will exist in the left hand side when k equal to m. If k not equal to m, all will be multiplied by this overlap integral with it, that is value is 0. So left hand side, the summation will be removed. Only one term will be there. That will actually help us to simplify things, handle equations easily. So if I do so, just putting down there, I am writing, you see, left hand side, one term will be there, and that term will be this evolution dak by dz obviously will be there, and then right, we'll have j times k equal to m. Instead of 2 beta m, I am writing k, 2 beta k, and then we are writing 2 omega mu, that is the integration value, beta k mode of that, right? That is the left hand side. Anything else in the left hand side? If you see that all the terms I have written, you see here. So I have written this one, 2 beta k. No, I think this is not there. So minus sign removed that side. Yeah, this one. So 2 beta k, and this value I have written first, 2 beta k, and yeah, of course, yeah. So this value, this integration value is 2 omega mu by beta, right? So this one I have written left hand side. And what about this exponential term? Because beta k equal to beta m, then only it will exist. So this will become 0, e to the power 0 means 1. So that exponential term will not be there also. Okay, so left hand side is fine. So what about right hand side? So right hand side, I have omega square mu, and there we cannot write like that because you are taking integration not only ek and en, in between delta epsilon xyz is there. So the integration will exist when this one and this one together non-zero or simultaneously non-zero. So there some value will be there, but you cannot write like whatever orthogonality condition you have used here. Because of that we are writing here, you cannot write like that because your integration delta epsilon xyz, the perturbation term is involved here. Okay, so there I will be writing as usual n integration k star xy, the perturbation term. The perturbation is intentional, that we can control ourselves. Okay, en xy dx dy times an z, obviously this is z function, and e to the power j beta k minus beta n z. So now I little bit simplify. I want to keep this is left hand side. Why? It will be clearer a little bit later. Left hand side I will be just keeping this one alone, and then I want to take to this side. So this side if I take, then what will happen? Yes, we can write minus j, right? And then you see omega square is there here, omega. So 1 omega will be cancelled. So this will be there, and mu cancel, right? 2 become 4, right? So we have one beta k is there. This thing beta k and this is a mode beta k. These two things I cannot just simply cancel because beta k propagation constant, we have to consider the modes, whether it is positive direction or negative direction, that can be imposed here. If a mode is propagating in the forward direction, I have to consider this one as a plus. If it is a reverse direction, I have to consider that as a minus. But here, this is a mode because that is coming out of the normalization. So I cannot simply consider this one depending on the positive direction propagation or negative direction of propagation for a given mode k, beta k, I will be just imposing here. Otherwise, it is basically the same. So here I will be writing left hand side beta k by beta k mode times omega times 4. That is the case. And then n ek star xy delta epsilon xyz en xy dx dy times anz e to the power j beta k minus beta n z. Is this okay? Do you have any objection?
Sir, it should be mod beta k by beta k.
Is there any difference if we just put numerator denominator if we exchange?
Okay, yeah.
So it does not matter, right? So
Yes, sir.
I normally prefer to put beta k in the denominator because in the textbook they have written like that, so that I don't want to confuse you. So this is, it does not matter if you put here mod and here with the same value, plus minus the numerator or denominator does not matter, right?
Okay.
So normally we are writing like that. Fine. Now what we'll do, you see, this value, this integration value, you see, mode to mode they can be different. I have kth mode is fixed, and what is the, by the way, before the, going into that, what is left hand side? Let us try to interpret this equation. Okay, left hand side, what is that? dakz by dz. What does it means? This is something different, first order differential equation for kth mode. And it is clear that how this kth mode evolve as it propagates, that depends by the slope, right? Derivative. Suppose dz amount propagation is there, then what is the amount of field strength will acquire by kth mode? That will be delta ak. That is how we can define. So that means the left hand side we can say that evolution of the kth mode. This actually represents the evolution of kth mode. That means if it is negative, that means it is decreasing. If it is positive, that means it is increasing, it is growing as it propagates. And if it is constant, that means if it is simply equal to 0, then it is not at all changing. So depending on the negative value and positive value of the right hand side or 0 value, we can actually conclude that kth mode has whether it is growing or it is attenuating, or that attenuating means power is being transferred to other modes. And what about right hand side? Just check within the integration, what is that? Within the integration, if you see, you have summation of kth mode is there, field profile is there, perturbation is there, then you just try to see profile of the nth mode and you are summing over all modes. That means you are looking into all the modes, how they are disturbed, and after disturbance because of the perturbation, you are just multiplying that. And then you are looking into the overlap with the kth mode. All other modes, n runs from 0 to say 10 modes if it is there. You want to see how they are disturbed, all individual modes, how they are disturbed because of the delta epsilon. That is how you get the multiplication. And after disturbance, you are trying to see what is the overlap with the kth mode. That actually give rise to the evolution of the kth mode in the left hand side. So this equation we can write as a perturbation is like a scattering point. At a certain point in your waveguide, suppose you have a scattering point. Somehow your waveguide dimension changed. So cross section is uniform and somewhere some dimension is changed. That means their orthogonality condition is broken already. So all the modes will see some kind of disturbance. Then again, you will see some kind of new type of situation here. You want to see all individual modes, how much scattered into a certain mode of our interest. It's a kth mode here. So I can say that every modes are getting scattered, and then after scattering, how much they are contributing to the kth mode. That is actually giving you a summation on the right hand side. So that is the physical meaning of this equation. You have to understand this actually clearly. That the perturbation actually disturbing all modes. After disturbance, you are focusing into a particular mode. What is happening to the particular mode because of the disturbance of all other modes? That gives you this value actually. So what we'll do that in the next step, we'll just define. Yeah.
Yeah, but it should be independent for other modes, right?
Sorry. It will be individual of all other modes, right?
Independent of all other modes because of orthogonality.
It is no, because orthogonality condition is broken because of the perturbation, right? So that because of that, you see, normally we have to just think about this thing, right? Where it is? Yeah, we are here, right? We are talking here, right? So you know the profile is orthogonality condition. That's why we are getting left hand side this one, all the things. But right hand side we interpret like that, that every mode somehow disturbed because of this delta epsilon, as if that mode is slightly scattering. It sees some kind of scattering. After scattering, you can see that that scattered field, how much it is giving overlap to the kth mode. That integration actually measures that. So is that clear, Yajit?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So what we'll do that, we'll define one another constant term, say C, and we'll define that one as Kn. What is that? That I will define as omega by 4 is there. We will write omega by 4 and integration of K star xy delta epsilon xyz en xy dx dy. So I know what is the perturbation, right? That is controlled by you. You know, because of the intentional, how much perturbation you are giving as a xyz dependence profile is there. Suppose this is there, known. I know unperturbed waveguide what is the mode profile of the kth mode, and I know unperturbed waveguide what is the field profile for the nth mode. So I can compute, I can calculate them numerically using some kind of software, say numerical, for example. Mode field distribution I can calculate. Once I calculate that one, nth mode, I can find all the values of ckn. Ckn actually defines the how much so-called coupling. We can call this as a coupling coefficient. Coupling coefficient between k and nth mode, kth mode and nth mode. So that actually measures this value, this evolution dak by dz. That means I am just looking into that, how much coupling is happening from the nth mode to kth mode because of the delta epsilon perturbation. So I can find ckn. I can calculate ckn. If I know that there are 10 modes are there, I know delta epsilon is the perturbation, then I can find out what is the overlap or coupling can happen from all other modes. Individually you can calculate like this. Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
yeah, ideally this ckn should be 0 because delta epsilon should be 0, ideal.
If it is ideal, then it is 0. So in that case, entire right hand side it is 0. That means your dak by dz equal to constant. So that is actually in principle that is correct, but you have delta epsilon perturbation is there. That's why ckn may not be equal to 0 because of the presence of this one, this perturbation term. Is that clear? Or you have some doubts? That's one you are asking, right?
Clear, sir.
So it's clear. Okay, fine. So now we can just write down this equation again, simplifying that d(a)k(z), that means evolution of dz I am writing. So this particular thing you should clarify, because this is very, very important for integrated optics. Yeah. And then we can write sum over ckn. This is running over n, right? anz, right? and then you multiply with e to the power j beta k minus beta n z. So this is your ultimate coupled mode equation coming like this. Okay, so assuming that the ckn you can calculate, you can compute, that is known to you. As long as delta epsilon is known, ckn known. So once ckn known, then you can find what is happening. You can track kth mode what is happening. You can try to solve this equation as a function of z, what is happening to the kth mode, whether field is growing or it is decreasing. Once you can compute ckn, and if you restrict yourself, okay, there are maybe 10 modes. All the 10 modes you have to see what is happening to this one. Of course, all the 10 modes whenever you are doing, you have to see what is happening to this also. This factor. This is a sinusoidal oscillation, right? This is e to the power j beta k n minus beta n. Beta k is fixed, and you are just looking into all other modes. What is the value of beta k minus beta n? Depending on that beta k, can you expect that beta k minus beta n will be equal to 0? Is that possible? Is that possible? Any two modes will have same propagation constant?
No, sir.
Why?
Because if k equal to n, then the right hand side may be 0.
No, I'm saying that normally waveguide modes you are solving, right? And waveguide mode, your effective
Degenerate
indices
mode.
you are calculating. Degenerate modes. That means typically any two modes will not have same propagation constant. In the rare cases, if it is something like that, maybe polarization is different, and in that case it is possibly probably. So most of the cases, this beta k minus beta n equal to non-zero. If it is non-zero, then what you can expect from this equation? Okay, so I will take that with one certain example. I will just discuss that with certain example of your perturbation. This equation, this previous, before I come into this equation, I just little bit work on this, the previous line. How will work on that? Let us see like this. Let us consider this delta epsilon xyz. This is the perturbation you have, is something like delta epsilon xy into some constant e to the power minus j m 2 pi by lambda z. Maybe this is some kind of constant you can put here, sorry, and then multiplied by this one. Some perturbation you can have in your waveguide like this. You understand what type of perturbation would be this one? Some perturbation, if you have a waveguide.
Periodic perturbation.
So if you have a waveguide, this is your y, this is your x, and this is your cross section of your waveguide, deep waveguides and silicon on insulator. So like this, right? Now, if you somehow create some situation like this, that is the thing, right? So you can have something like this. And then you can have something like this. Okay, some rectangular, you have normal waveguide is actually unmodulated, something like this. Suppose you have some region slightly you have reduced the width or height periodically, right? So then if I just consider this one is the lambda, this is the period, right? And then some certain kind of periodicity is there. Then this particular periodicity, periodic modulation, you can express by Fourier decomposition, right? That if you just do Fourier transform, Fourier expansion, then that means only z direction you are having, and whatever this is your xy, whatever modulation is there, that is actually you know that how much x region it is edged or reduced, or y direction it is done edged or removed. That can be represented by this profile. XY cross section, whatever modification is there, that can be represented by this one in the waveguide cross section. But along z direction, we have some kind of periodic perturbation, and this periodic perturbation can be decomposed into anything periodic. You can actually decompose into harmonics, spatial harmonics, and we are just doing this thing. Any periodic perturbation along the longitudinal direction, so we represent this one. Sometimes this M is what? Normally, M is, earlier we have used M for mode number, right? And then in the previous equation, if you see, I don't have M here in this equation because I have just modified K equal to M. So right now, you forget about M as a mode. Now mode number is index, we have used K and N here, right? So that's why I reintroduced M for not mode number, but the harmonics of the periodic perturbation. So this M you should not confuse with the waveguide mode. This is the harmonics of the periodic perturbation. You could use some other index also, that's not a problem. But I am just sticking to your textbook index. Okay. So in that case, what I will get from this equation? So previous equation, if I just get here. So that means this perturbation term, this one I will be writing. Okay. Yeah. So this one I will be writing here. This one, delta epsilon x z, instead of that I will be writing here that one. So if I write, what I will get? I will get d a k z dz equal to minus j beta k mod beta k, right? And then I have sum over n was there, and I have another sum is coming from the perturbation, and I will be writing ckn, and because of this an additional index for coming from this periodic perturbation, that m I am writing instead of ckn, I am writing ckn. Sometimes it is written like a bracket parenthesis, and then we will be writing anz e to the power j beta k minus beta n was there. Along with that, additional exponential term will be there. That is actually, what is that? That will be m times 2 pi by lambda times z, right? And this ckn will be expressed now something like this. Ckn will be omega by 4, right? This Bm is the Fourier coefficient for the mth harmonic, right? So this one will be say Bm will be there, right? Ek star xy delta epsilon xy, because that has been decomposed into xy and z dependencies there, and En xy dx dy times Bm, right? So that means coupling coefficient between k and n because of the mth harmonics of the periodicity, periodic perturbation. So cknm will be represented by this one. For this special, this is a special case of perturbation. This is a special case of perturbation. If you can do like that, just for discussion purpose I am using, but later you will find that that is a indeed that type of perturbation we use for designing different type of devices. Okay, so we come to a very nice equation if we have a special type of perturbation which is very much possible using our fabrication techniques. When CMOS fabrication techniques, normally people are fabricating like that. Okay, now we'll discuss a little bit more on this. Suppose you want to find out, because of certain, you see, this is some kind of sinusoidal things, right? I want to find out how much evolution will happen of the kth mode because of the propagation at delta z. So normally we will be writing something like that. Suppose you are considering evolution of the kth mode, delta ak, because of the some nth mode overlap. Okay, what I will be writing? Minus j beta k mod beta k, right? And ckn because of the mth harmonics, right? That will be actually anz, right? And then e to the power j beta k minus beta n minus m 2 pi by lambda z multiplied by dz. That is integration. Is that clear? So I am just trying to this delta z, I will be writing say delta z here. Integration because of the dz I am writing here. Okay, delta k. So that means how much evolution will happen, suppose because of the 0 to L length of propagation. 0 to L length, suppose you have a waveguide, you have a perturbation, periodic perturbation starting from z equal to 0 to z equal to L. That L can be very small also, whatever length, arbitrary length you are choosing. Okay. Then how much perturbation will be there? Maybe you can consider this L, maybe one period is there, perturbation is there, then another period perturbation is there. Okay. So you are just integrating over one period, lambda. Then what will happen? Suppose L is very large, a little bit larger than lambda. You are just considering more than one period, two period, three periods, and so on. So what would be the value? First of all, you just think about this one. Okay, this is some value. You can match this one, beta k minus beta n minus m 2 pi by lambda, that can be equal to 0, and beta k minus beta n minus m 2 pi by lambda, that is greater than 0. What will happen of this integral? Can you tell? What will happen here and what will happen here? If you are just integrating over a certain length, several periods, you are just integrating. In this case, what will happen? What would be the result? And in this case, what would be the result? Assume that this is not equal to 0. Ckn not equal to 0. And what I am saying that evolution of kth mode because of the nth mode and perturbation of this kind. So these two situation, what will happen to the right hand side? Anyone can help? Are you following me? I'll ask.
If it is 0 in the first case, it becomes a constant. Like the integral becomes a constant and it multiplies with CK.
So this A and Z you have to integrate, right? So it will be if it is 0, that means this thing is gone, right? This is just 1, right? Exponential term will be 1. So if it is 1, then you can get some value, right? You can get some kind of integration value. But if it is not equal to 0, some greater than 0, what will happen? This is a sinusoidal value. So anything sinusoidal you will integrate, what you get? Plus minus, it will go on, right? So ultimately, what would be the resultant? You just any sine things, right? If you integrate over a period, what you will get? The sine curve, sine
0.
function, you integrate over a period, what you get?
0.
Zero.
Several period, you will get 0 also, right? So that means if this is somehow greater than 0, then this sinusoidal function is existing. So the integration will become 0. So once it is becoming 0, then delta AK will be equal to 0, right? So you can have a perturbation, but perturbation is such that beta K, this one is not equal to 0, then also it actually as if it is nothing happening. But if it is 0, if you somehow manage to get it 0, this value, then you can really control the value of AK. You can actually get some kind of evolution. So that means beta K minus beta N. So I define this one as a delta beta. If this delta beta equal to beta K minus beta N minus M times 2 pi by lambda, if this is equal to 0, then you can expect that kth mode will evolve some value. It can plus or minus some value will be there. So something that means nth mode and kth mode is somehow coupled. If this is the case, but if this delta beta equal to beta K minus beta N minus M 2 pi by lambda not equal to 0, then no coupling will happen between kth mode and nth mode. Is that
This
clear?
is only true. Yeah, this is only true if L is a multiple of lambda, right?
Obviously, as it propagates, because whenever L is very, very large, so sinusoidal curve, whether you integrate over 1 period or you have integrating over 10 period, that will be 0, right? But
Yes,
if you are
but it has to be a complete
integrating
period.
10.5 period, then you will get some little value.
Yes.
But normally we can consider that little value is negligibly small, right? So my point is that if you want effectively coupling between two modes, first thing you should keep in mind that this part, this phase part, they should match. At least that should be 0. That is actually called so-called phase matching condition. And since you are integrating over along the Z direction, so it is called longitudinal phase matching. So if this is satisfied, then we call that longitudinal phase matching. So that is what I am saying. If you don't have any longitudinal direction in any perturbation, that means this part will not be there. Then beta K, if it is not equal to beta N, then also no coupling will be taking place. Effective coupling will not take place. Only when this in the previous equation, if you see, and I'm just considering here, when I'm writing this one, if beta K minus beta N not equal to 0, if beta K not equal to beta N, then also will not couple. because here perturbation is something, it can happen. I don't know longitudinal direction, what type of perturbation is there. Suppose longitudinal direction, no perturbation is there, but somehow one perturbation delta x, delta epsilon xy is there. And if it is not there, then no coupling will be there for the same region. So one important part is that, so you should have this phase matching condition. So this should be equal to 0. Then it is called phase matching condition. Whatever perturbation you do, that perturbation should help to phase match between two modes. Typically, beta k and beta n will not be same. So beta k minus beta n won't be 0. So if you have a longitudinal perturbation like this, and then there is a chance that whatever subtraction is there, that can be balanced by this periodic perturbation. So phase matching condition can be achieved, and then you can expect some kind of coupling from nth mode to kth mode, and vice versa. So that is the first condition, that it has to be phase matched. And second condition is that should be not non-zero. So even phase matching condition is there, but you are getting this one equal to 0, the coupling coefficient equal to 0. Then also the right hand side is 0. So no evolution. So coupling can happen if this is non-zero and this is equal to 0, approximately or nearly or completely equal to 0. Then only two modes can exchange their power. Otherwise, because of the orthogonality condition, they can't share power. They cannot exchange power. If you are launching first mode 1 watt, 1 watt will carried by that particular mode. Second mode 5 watt, that 5 watt will be carried alone by that mode, as long as you don't have any perturbation or phase matching condition. If you have some kind of perturbation and phase matching condition, then there is a power exchange can take place. But that power exchange not only depend on phase matching condition, you have to see two modes, how they are overlapping. That means you have to look into that equation, this value should be equal to non-zero. Whatever integration you get, that should be equal to 0. If somehow this integration is giving 0, then of course no coupling will be there. So you can break the orthogonality condition, but still modes will be independent. They will not couple exchange power among themselves. It will propagate like a eigenmode in principle. Is that clear? Okay, so I have to stop here for today. So I will just discuss that. So this is the basic thing. I will just start some more special cases, how we should deal and how we can lead to a device design using this coupled mode theory. If you have any questions. Okay, then.